Hello and welcome back to the lesson. The subject is governance and compliance audit. Today, candidates, we are going to analyze the process of governance and compliance audit. Governance and compliance audit is a process, meaning there are various distinct stages in the process. And there are 4 key stages. Number 1, planning and risk assessment. Number 2 is field work. Number 3, reporting. Then number 4 is follow-up. So it is a process. It's like a loop. And in our next video, the other lesson, we will be studying the cycle. It's a loop. It's a continuous process. If it is a legal requirement that a company be audited annually, then it is a cycle. So it begins with the planning and risk assessment. Number 1, planning. Just as any project candidates, before you engage, before you execute a project, before you implement a project, you need to have a plan. This is the initial phase that defines the scope, defines the objectives, and it ensures that the audit focuses on the areas that matter most. That's why it's important to begin with the objectives of the audit and the scope. Understand? You determine the objectives and scope. Scope means the boundary, what will be audited and what will be omitted. So you have to define the specific areas to be audited, such as the effectiveness of the board, the data privacy, anti-corruption policies, and so on. And here, candidates, the focus may be, say, reviewing the board charter and delegation of authority. So first of all, you define the objectives and the scope of the audit. The second part, when it comes to planning, is conducting risk assessment. Conducting risk. That means evaluating the risks of material non-compliance. Material what? Material non-compliance or risk of significant governance failure. So you have to evaluate the risk of material non-compliance. Then you develop, after that you develop what we call, after determining the objectives and defining the scope, after conducting the risk assessment, then you will be in a place to develop an audit program, a detailed risk-based plan. Okay, it is a detailed plan that has to highlight who does what. You assign tasks to different team members. You allocate resources during the audit program. Then when you're developing the audit program, then part of this audit program is determining the audit procedures. What procedures you will be using to carry out the audit? Is it sampling of documents? Are you going to interview the management, or what will be the audit? What procedure will you be using? Is it observation? That has to be part of the plan, a detailed plan. If you are to audit board effectiveness, are you going to interview the board members? And if you are to interview the board members, you also need to assign who will interview the board members and what will be the timing. What will be the time for interviewing the board members? So you have a detailed plan because you already identified the objectives and the scope. You know what you are going to. You have conducted risk. You have evaluated the risks of material non-compliance or significant governance failure. You know what should be done. So you now come up with a detailed plan, a detailed risk-based work plan. In fact, this is just a work plan, a detailed work plan, detailed work plan. You allocate tasks to different members of the audit team. You also allocate resources. Then you have a time frame of all the tasks that will be performed. You have a detailed work plan. It is on the basis of this detailed work plan that now we move to the second phase, which is the execution. You go to the field. This is the execution phase where the boots are on the ground. Where the boots are on where? On the ground. You fold your sleeves, you have to go to the ground, and then the purpose for going to the ground is to get evidence. You gather evidence, and also you control, you test the controls. Okay. Execution means gathering information, testing the controls. You understand? Yes. You test the controls, you obtain understanding. Here you obtain information. You carry out the actual work. You gather background information, including organizational charts, process flows, previous audit reports, and that involves document reviews. You review the documents, you carry out initial walkthroughs of the process with management, and so on. You may also test controls. You test the controls. You can test the controls. Assess whether controls are designed effectively. Do they make sense? Are they actually being used? And this is done through interviews, observations, and also you can test controls by sampling transactions. By sampling what? By sampling transactions. So you test controls, then you gather evidence. You gather evidence. You collect sufficient reliable evidence to support conclusions. And this includes reviewing board minutes, reviewing signed codes of conduct, reviewing training records. You look at all the records. You review regulatory filings and so on. You understand? Yes. Then after obtaining information or understanding, after testing the controls, after gathering evidence, then still under execution, you have to document findings. You document. Why do you document findings? You document findings because it is these findings that will form the basis of the next stage, which is reporting. You have to record any exceptions or control deficiencies. You do what we call preliminary findings. You discuss the preliminary findings with management to ensure factual accuracy and also identify the root cause of any issue that you may come across when obtaining evidence. So you document the findings, then you move to the third phase, which is reporting. Report and communicate results. Reporting and communication. Reporting and communication is the third stage. This phase synthesizes the data into a clear story for the board and also executive leadership. You synthesize all this data that you've gathered here, including the findings. You synthesize them, then you come up with a draft report. You understand? You draft. You come up with a draft report. This is not final, but just a draft report, which you then share with the management. You prepare a formal document stating the scope, the objectives, and the findings. The scope, the objectives, and the findings in the draft report. It includes an executive summary for leadership and detailed findings for process owners. After you draft the report, then you seek what we call management. This report may contain deficiencies, may contain anomalies, may contain gaps. in the governance structure or systems, internal controls, which the auditor is required to document and then make suggestions or recommendations on how to remediate the issues or weaknesses. But these weaknesses are to be remediated by management. So this draft report is sent to the management, and the management ought to respond. The auditors should obtain formal response from the management, and the formal response includes an action plan that contains or identifies who is responsible to fix the issues and the specific deadline for completion. The auditor makes recommendations on fixing the weaknesses. The management then responds that the weaknesses that you identified will be fixed by so and so and so within this time frame. So that is contained in the the management response. After that, after receiving the response from management, the auditor then drafts the final report, which should contain the management's response. While drafting or issuing the final report, the auditors must incorporate the management action plan into the final document and distribute it to the audit committee, which is then escalated to the board and senior management. So that is the third stage. The fourth stage is follow-up. Governance and compliance audit does not end after the report is submitted to the board. No, the auditors are required to follow up. The final phase ensures that the audit isn't just a paper exercise, but leads to sustained improvement. In following up, the auditors should monitor implementation. Because in the third phase, you remember, the management comes up with an action plan on when or who will fix the issues. So the auditor should make a follow-up and monitor the action plan, monitor and ensure that the action plan is implemented as promised by the management. That is to mean that the audit function periodically checks that management's agreed upon corrective actions are being implemented as promised. And that ensures that management remains accountable. After that, the auditors should then verify effectiveness. Auditors are required to verify effectiveness. That means to retest the new controls to confirm that the root cause of the original problem has been permanently resolved rather than just patched up. You understand? Understand the flow, candidates. The auditors are required to give an assurance, give an opinion as to whether, for example, the company is complying with laws, regulations, international treaties, and so on, including internal policies. After conducting the audit, the auditor may realize that or make a finding that the company is not complying with laws or regulations. The auditor then documents the deficiencies and makes recommendations in the final report. The management promises to fix the problems. So the auditors, we are saying, should after fixing the problems, the auditor should verify that the root cause of the problem has been resolved by retesting the new controls that have been put in place by the management based on the management response. Do you understand? Yes. Then it does not end there. It does not end there. We have what we call lessons learned. The lessons that are learned in this audit should be used to improve the next audit. Both the audit team and management reflect on the process itself. And this feedback loop is used to improve the planning and execution of the next audit, because this marks the end of the audit. You take the lessons, because auditing is a continual process. After this year, when planning the next audit, the lessons that are learned here are used to make improvement when planning and carrying out the subsequent audits. And candidates, that is the process of governance and compliance audit. It begins with planning and risk assessment. You define the objectives and the scope, you conduct risk assessment, you develop a detailed work plan. Then you go to the field, execution. This is where the boots are on the ground. You put the boots on the ground, you go to the ground, you obtain information, you test controls, you gather evidence, you document findings. Then on the basis of the documents, the findings that have been made, you draft a report, a preliminary report, which you then send to management, who are required to respond back to the auditor, so that the auditor, when drafting the final report, incorporates this report in the final report, incorporates the responses in the final report, which is then submitted to the board and the audit committee. Then there is a follow-up. The auditors have to monitor that the changes have been implemented. They also need to verify effectiveness. They retest the controls to ensure that the root causes are solved. Then the lessons that are learned are used to improve subsequent audits. That is the process of governance and compliance audit. Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.